Hello everyone, my name is Judith Smith and I am an author and a motivational speaker. Today I want to share with you something that is very dear to me, and that is forgiveness. But before I go any further, I want to share with you a little bit about myself. I am a firm believer in my Christian faith and a mother to two amazing boys, Ray J and Raymar Haynes. One of my degrees is in psychology with counseling. And so I strongly believe in mindsets. I do believe that having a change mindset can enable you to experience a different result. I view life through an optimistic lens and strongly believe in experiencing freedom from anything that aims to keep you captive. The title of this mini podcast is Forgiveness, a Liberating Act. According to Wikipedia, forgiveness in a psychological sense is the intentional and voluntary process by which one may initially feel victimized, undergoes a change in feelings and attitude regarding a given offense, and overcomes negative emotions such as resentment and vengeance. Now, forgiveness is a deliberate action, and so is unforgiveness. Both can be very painful experiences, but forgiveness heals, while unforgiveness holds one captive. In this episode, I want to share with you forgiveness from a healthy perspective, not from a place of captivity where your freedom relies on vindication from others in the form of an apology. I want to cover the different aspects of forgiveness. Number 1, forgiving yourself. Number 2, forgiving others. And number 3, asking for forgiveness. Before I go any further in this episode, I want to share with you my own personal journey of being a prisoner of unforgiveness. Now, this was something I wrote years ago in one of my journals. And while I was preparing for this podcast, I found it and I'm like, wow, so convenient. So I'm going to share it with you exactly how I wrote it in my journal. Unforgiveness was my greatest battle, a major setback. Pain was very familiar and accompanied my most intense childhood memories. Anger was an overused emotion that was slowly assassinating my character. Everyone close to me suffered from its outbursts. No one understood my mismanaged pain. But why should they? After all, it was I who was drinking the poisonous substance from the fountain of prolonged pain, even with its detrimental effects. I was becoming fully aware of the consequences of harboring pain, but refused to forgive. Why? Because 1, I didn't get an apology, and 2, I was adamant that the person who hurt me was to forever be held captive. Never did I realize that it would have been forever at my own expense, until I was losing too much, hurting too many people, and having too many sleepless nights. I've had enough. So that was what I wrote years ago. Now, it was one early morning I heard clearly in my spirit. In fact, this was what woke me up when I heard the still small voice ever so clearly. And I heard, unless you forgive, you will never be free. That was it for me. I refused to be held a permanent prisoner. I had my future in front of me. The past was too big of a baggage to carry. And so I did what I could no longer refuse to do. I forgave, even without an apology. the apology that I was waiting on in order to be free. It was too costly of a price to pay on forgiveness. And so I forgave. I forgave so I could freely live. I let it all go so I could freely grow. Now, during lockdown in 2020, I was having a conversation with God. I said, Lord, what do you want me to do in this season? And this was me speaking with a long, extensive list in front of me. A list of goals I want to achieve. A list of new projects I wanted to start. But after I assessed my 2020 experience, I asked myself, am I on God's agenda? Am I doing what I was created to do? All these things that I have written down, are they for here and now? And so it was very important to me that I was on God's agenda and God's timing. And so after I asked, Lord, what do you want me to do? I immediately heard in my spirit, matters of the heart. I was like, wow. I didn't understand the full intensity of it then. So what I did, I wrote it down in one of my journals. And then 3 or 4 days later, I went back to it and I started to think about some of the things that are matters of the heart. And forgiveness was one of them. Hence why I decided to no longer delay sharing with you my own experience from being a prisoner to unforgiveness to now being so free, where no pain can ever again hold me captive. No guilt can turn into shame. I've had my fair share of shame. I am at a place now where I live intentionally and I am deliberate about my actions. I refuse to believe that unforgiveness is holding anyone captive. Forgiveness is a main act for me, even if I consciously decide to love someone from a distance. Now, as I've mentioned, unforgiveness is one of the matters of the heart. It is a weight that many of us carry, and some are even in denial. I can attest to being in denial for some time. I harbored unforgiveness in my heart for many, many years. And though it was destructive to a lot of areas in my life, I was adamant that I needed an apology. Without this apology, I refused, and I use the word refused, I refused to move on. It was a conscious decision. When assessing the act of forgiveness, the question, what is the real issue with forgiveness, came to mind. In regards to forgiving yourself, is the real issue guilt or shame? Can one feel that they are not worthy of forgiveness? Or is it a matter of not knowing how to forgive themselves? On the other hand, when it comes to forgiving others, is the real issue the belief that forgiving others will cause them to be free and they deserve to be in captivity because of whatever it is that they did? Or is it a matter of thinking that once you forgive, you have to reconcile with the person? In my very first book, Beautiful Mind, Even with a Shattered Soul, I wrote this about forgiveness in chapter 2. We must not voluntarily be captivated by the inevitable pain, rejection, or neglect. Instead, we must seek to find and adapt to acts that are beneficial to the quality of life we ought to live. We might question the extent to which forgiveness might set us free, and who is the real beneficiary after we participate in such an act. We are very much aware that forgiveness doesn't possess the power to undo the situation. So what really is there to gain from forgiving? Forgiveness is the ticket to a free and empowering life. Forgiveness is the very key that unlocks situations that aim to hold us captive. It puts us in the driver's seat of our lives. Forgiveness puts us in control of our now and claim the rewards of our tomorrow, as it guards us against the negative impact of yesterday's events. And I'm going to read that piece again. Forgiveness puts us in control of our now and claims the rewards of our tomorrow, as it guards us against the negative impact of yesterday's events. Here are some other amazing rewards of forgiveness. Number 1, the purity of our hearts. With the purity of our hearts, we are free from contamination, anger, and resentment. The Bible says in Proverbs 4 verse 23, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." Now, using this context, our heart is the inner life that holds our emotions. When we guard something, we protect it. We watch over it. Now, we can't always protect the heart from pain, but the act of forgiveness is a form of protection in itself, because it prevents us from harboring pain that has the potential to contaminate our soul and hinder any movement of growth. Number 2, of the amazing rewards of forgiveness, healthier relationships and less anxiety. When you are at peace with your experience, you are not overly guarded when you are relating to others. You are not so vulnerable to the extent of accusing everyone of being the same. Sometimes the very same walls that we put up to safeguard ourselves is the very same wall that keep other opportunities out. So we're trying to protect ourselves from people hurting us. We put walls up, and those very walls keep people out. Potential people who would have been able to love us and to have amazing experience with. We safeguard ourselves to the extent of blocking them out, not giving them an opportunity to get to know us and have beautiful experiences together. The fear of not wanting to be vulnerable to being hurt or violated again can put us into an overprotective mode, where we are protecting ourselves from something that is not even there. Another one of the amazing rewards of forgiveness is improved mental health. Having a healthy mindset is a result of how we deal with our situation. It is not the result of not having to experience anything. Not every pain or hurt is intentional. Therefore, they cannot be totally avoided. What this means is that there are experiences that are inevitable. Now, what we have left after we have our experience is determined by our response. It is very important that we see our situation through a clear lens and assess and interpret it through a healthy mind. A mind that is consumed with pain, resentment, bitterness, or the need for vindictiveness will not see life through an optimistic lens and will never benefit from the lessons from that experience. Number 4, one of the amazing benefits of forgiveness, fewer symptoms of depression. People walk around with unforgiveness and try to convince themselves that they are fine. Yet, in other areas of their life, things are out of control. They fail to realize how intertwined the different areas of our lives are. Everything has to do with everything. And what this means is that if you are struggling with unforgiveness, you will not be able to live a fulfilled life. There is no separation when it comes to emotion and response. Even the things we suppress come out in different areas of our lives. Despite the rewards of forgiveness, it can still be a challenging experience. Having no control over people's actions can sometimes make forgiveness even more difficult as we battle with our emotions and the need to protect ourselves. Some people are creatures of habits, and even with bad behavior, they would not have a desire to change. We cannot force anyone to see themselves for who they are or who we perceive them to be based on their action. Despite all of this, we are expected to have a forgiving heart towards them. Seems unreal when people make a conscious decision to not alter their ways. But we still have no choice but to forgive. That is the only way we will experience freedom. In this episode, I want to look at one of the aspects of forgiveness, and that is forgiving yourself. In another episode, I will look at forgiving others and seeking forgiveness from others. Now, forgiving yourself can be one of the hardest things you could ever have to do. I had one experience where I had to forgive myself, and it was very, very difficult. I prayed about the situation. I believe that God forgave me. But when it comes to forgiving myself, it was a challenge. I resented myself for my action. And for years, I struggled with forgiving myself. But what caused me to be so overly critical and judgmental of myself was that when I looked at my past action, I couldn't fathom why I made the decisions that I made. Now, understanding it now, I realize that I was looking back through a hindsight perspective. I viewed my past experience through a mature lens. Now, what helped me to forgive myself is understanding that I was looking back at my immature self through a mature eye. I am at a place of maturity where I wouldn't dare to make the same mistakes. But I was judging the immature me through a mature eye. And so I had to forgive my 21-year-old self. Sometimes we made bad decisions in our past due to selfishness or lack of knowledge. For me, it was selfishness. It was all about me. And so I made decisions that caused others pain. And when I look back and I realized to the extent that I've caused others pain, I resented myself. Today, I implore you to forgive yourself for not having the foresight to know what now seems so obvious. Sometimes when looking back, we question the audacity to do certain things. Yes, we may have been selfish with the decisions we made. Yes, we may have overreacted. Yes, we may have been too vulnerable and allowed ourselves to be hurt over and over again. Yes, these are so obvious to us now, but simply because we are looking at them through hindsight lenses. Now, here are some practical therapeutic steps you could take when desiring to forgive yourself. And I pray to God that they help you. Number 1, take responsibility for your actions. Accountability is key. It enables you to identify with your shortcomings. It's okay to feel guilty about your actions because that means you feel bad about what you did. Guilt or shame hold you captive. Allows you guilt as an evaluate your action of what you have done and an instigator to provoke positive behavioral change. But don't let shame impede your growth. It is okay to feel guilty about your actions because that means you feel bad about what you did. Guilt allows you to evaluate your actions and propel you to change, but don't let it turn into shame. Shame will push you into isolation. Don't let it cripple your self-worth. Shame will make you feel bad about who you are. It is a sense of failure as you are reduced to what people think of you or people perceive you to be because of your action. Don't let shame let you go missing from your present reality or future potential. Don't let shame navigate your next move. Shame will keep you tied to the worst time of your life. It is time to move forward. You owe yourself enough grace to have another go at life from a more informed and mature stance. Don't let shame push you into isolation. Don't let it cripple your self-worth. It is time we work on our internal conflict of guilt and shame. Number 2 of the practical therapeutic steps you can take when desiring to forgive yourself, have a bit of compassion and sympathy for the younger and less mature version of yourself. Think about an adult looking at a child's mistake and feeling so annoyed. Why? Because from a mature perspective, you cannot fathom how he or she could possibly do such a thing. Yet there is some level of innocence in that child. The younger version of yourself, be it yesterday or last week, may be a less mature version of who you are now. So extend a bit of compassion to yourself with the intention to never repeat that act again. Number 3, have a conversation with your inner critic and accept the unacceptable. And that is, the act is already done and nothing you do can undo it. And that's the reality. You are faced with a reality that you must make the right and necessary decision in order to move forward. Number 4, take the lessons forward. When you are privileged to see your action as wrong or unfortunate, and you take the lessons forward, you can become a better person. You are at a very good place to benefit from your mistakes. We all can grow from our mistakes. Your past is not your end, hence why you are still here. God saw it necessary for you to survive your past mistakes. Now don't allow it to taint your future. Number 5, be kind to yourself and tell yourself that you need forgiveness too. Sometimes we don't give to ourselves what we give to others. We have compassion towards them. We're sympathetic towards them. But when it comes to ourselves, it's a different thing. What we give to others, we need it too. We're indeed human. Number 6, make a conscious decision that you have a future worth fighting for, and you will not let the past victimize it. One of the consequences of refusing to forgive ourselves is that our freedom is restricted. Now, here's one thing I want you to be mindful of. In the case where you forgive yourself for the wrong that you've done to others, even without them forgiving you, don't let it cause you to lack empathy for them. Because even though you are free from your past mistake, don't allow that freedom to allow you to no longer care as to how they feel. Forgiveness of self is not condoning your behavior, but should cause you to be remorseful and seek restoration as much as possible with every effort. Now, it's up to others as to whether or not they want to reconcile with you. But you must, as far as it concerns you, seek a restoration. It is time to allow the healing process to start by opening up yourself to the act of forgiveness. It is time you let go of the anger, the shame, the guilt, the bitterness, the sadness. It is time you give yourself enough grace so you can be free. Whatever you were yesterday, you don't have to be that today. And even if you messed up again, forgive yourself again and again with the intention to not keep repeating the same mistake. Now, if you're struggling with forgiving yourself, God is ready and able to help you, but you must have a desire to do so. I want to leave this Bible verse with you. Isaiah 54 verse 4. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame. For thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, and shalt not remember the reproach of thy widowhood any more. I'll repeat that. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame. For thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, and shalt not remember the reproach of thy widowhood any more. If you wish to own a copy of Beautiful Mind, Even with a Shattered Soul, you can purchase it on www.amazon.com. Or if you want a signed copy, you can email me at judean@nurturingtheextraordinary.com. You can also contact me through my website, www.nurturingtheextraordinary.com. If you want to tune in to episode 2 or 3, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Nurturing the Extraordinary. All the best in experiencing freedom through the liberating act of forgiveness. God bless you. And always remember, the world will benefit more from the healed version of you. Until next time, stay blessed.